Part 8. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 71. The furniture is not new though. But when it was delivered to the Bai Road courtyard, it was done with great fanfare. Wu Wei even told everyone how much he spent on it, making him look like a scapegoat. Sure enough, it was late that night. Yang Qiao had just fallen asleep in his arms when Wu Wei heard a sound coming from the courtyard. Very light. Wu Wei's heart moved and he shook Yang Qiao awake. The two of them were sleeping together, without even taking off their clothes. He immediately took out the long stick under the bed and walked out quietly. The door bolt in the main room was being moved with a dagger, making a slight sound. The two of them, one on the left and one on the right, hid behind the door, waiting for someone to unbolt the door. After a while, the main door of the hall was pushed open with a creak, and two figures landed on the ground under the light of the night. Wu Wei and Yang Qiao exchanged glances. When both of them entered the door, he picked up the thick long stick in his hand and greeted them. Anyway, as long as you don't swing your head, you can't kill anyone. The other party had a dagger in his hand, but as soon as he entered the door, Wu Wei picked it off and dropped it to the ground. The rest of the situation is without any suspense. Waiting for work in leisure, beating the drowned dog hard. They were beaten until they held their heads and begged for mercy. They felt pain here and soreness there, and then Wu Weixun took out the hemp rope used to tie up the furniture in the afternoon and tied them up. After tying it up, make sure there is no threat. Wu Wei finally recognized these two faces, a middle-aged man, as old as Xiaochun said. The other one with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks looked like his younger brother's follower. Let's go to the police station. Wu Wei yelled, and the middle-aged man immediately knelt down and said, "Boss, you have a lot, just spare us this time, we won't dare to do it again." Yang Qiao sneered, "Go and ask the police if they agree." Wu Wei pulled up a chair and sat down and said, "Okay, let's take a good walk around and see whether it's you who have more people, or I have more people under my command. After all, a boss who can sneak into a house and commit a burglary will not have much power at all." Early the next morning, the Bai Road police station just opened for work. Wu Wei and Yang Qiao twisted these two people to the door. These days, public security penalties are severe, and I was detained at that time. I'm afraid I won't be able to get out for a while. By the time I left the police station, it was already sunrise. Wu Wei called the guard at the meat factory and the canteen in the family area, and then took Yang Qiao back to the courtyard to catch up on some sleep. This sleep lasted for half a day. When I woke up, I was still hungry. Yang Qiao heard his belly rumbling, rubbed her eyes and stood up, saying, "I'll cook for you." Len Buting was pulled back by Wu Wei, "I'll eat you first." It was just broad daylight, but Yang Qiao couldn't let go after all. The two of them just had a taste and then got up to cook. After the meal, Wu Wei went straight to the meat factory site. As soon as he put on his safety helmet, he saw his master, Qiao Wei, mouthing, "Here, I've been looking for you for a long time." Wu Wei followed the sound and looked over. What was he doing? First he handed master a cigarette and then said, "I'll go over and take a look." After saying that, he took out his cigarette and walked up and said, "Pan Dwarf, why are you here?" When Pan Kaizai saw him, he subconsciously blurted out, "Boss Wu, I've been waiting for you for a long time." Good guy, if it weren't for the cigarette, I would probably be Wu Lauer. Wu Wei took out a lighter and lit it and said, "What do you want from me?" Pan Chaza didn't even notice, grabbed the lighter and said, "Can't you? The Zishan brick kill factory is going to be sold, do you know?" Wu Wei's heart moved. It didn't surprise Pan that he was here to ask for a job. But coming all the way, more than 10 miles, just to talk about this? How unexpected it is. So Wu Wei didn't follow him around the bush and said straight to the point, Pan dwarf, tell the truth. Did Chinziru send you here? Pan Kaizai was caught off guard, his eyes wandered, and he said in a guilty tone, no, no, I came here myself. Wu Wei smiled, blew out a smoke ring and said, that's best. Then he pointed to the construction site of the factory and said, as you can see, I am doing well in this project and making a lot of money. I'm not interested in the tiring and dirty work in the brick kiln. Pan Isa looked at the bustling scene on the construction site with mixed feelings in his heart. Originally we were pulling and moving bricks together. As a result, in the blink of an eye, people made a lot of money. Not only that, there was an endless stream of people coming to visit her to propose marriage. In contrast, he could only be ordered around by Widow Qin to do this unjust thing. Seeing that Pan Chazy had nothing to say, Wu Wei refilled his cigarette and sent him away, go back, so that Widow Qin won't be in a hurry. Pan Chazy, Why did everyone become smarter after Joe Poppy died? Only I look like a living clown. After sending Pan Kaizai away, Wu Wei turned around and told his master Chiao Wuye the purpose of his visit and his own judgment. Fifth Master Chiao frowned, you mean, Widow Qin is eyeing you? She wants to sell this brick kiln because of you. Wu Wei nodded, it's almost the same. When they returned to the fence yard that night, both Xiaochun and Zishun were a little surprised. In addition to the surprise, Xiaochun pulled Wu Wei and looked him up and down, second brother, are you okay? Wu Wei shook his head and said, it's okay. Chiao and I used the dog beating stick method to beat the two thieves so hard that they kept screaming. They had no power to fight back. Xiaochun said excitedly, that's great. I can continue to set up the stall tomorrow. Wu Wei nodded and looked at Zishun and said, school is about to start, are the new clothes and new school bags ready? Zishun nodded, second brother, I will study hard. Hearing this, Wu Wei was as relieved as an old father. Then Zishun mentioned, by the way, Sister Yuyan happens to be teaching our class. Wu Wei was not surprised at all. Because it was like this in the previous life. And the graduating class is stressful, which is suitable for young teachers who are energetic and have just started working. The next day, on the 29th, Wu Wei just woke up and heard Xiaochun busy outside. She was so bored after not setting up the stall for 3 or 5 days in a row. She wished she could fly over immediately. Wu Wei sent her to East Street and turned back to the family area of the meat processing factory. During this period, the foundation of the small Western-style buildings of the two-section chiefs' homes has begun to take shape. After a round of inspection, Wu Wei confirmed that there were no problems, so he asked Zai Ke and Master Gao to continue the construction according to the drawings. On the other side, Sun Erdao's home has finally started construction. However, all the original prefabricated blocks were abandoned in the corner and could not be used. The second floor has been built with new red bricks purchased later. Wu Wei retracted his gaze and heard Zai Ke say, by the way, boss, I heard that Zheng Laohan's family is planning to marry a daughter-in-law on National Day. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 72. Wu Wei smiled. It seems that old man Zheng can't wait to hold his grandson. After all, there is no holiday on National Day these days, and generally all the happy events that can be planned are arranged before the new year. The purpose is to make it more lively with more people. After lingering for a while at the small Western-style building, Wu Wei went to Qian's house without stopping. This is the second project led by Master Chen after Yao's. On the first day of construction, he, the head of the general contractor, had to be present as usual. Fortunately, Master Chen was familiar with the situation, so he didn't need to say too much. When they left Qian's house and returned to the meat processing factory, it was almost noon. As soon as he squatted down, he was asked by Master Chiao Siyi, have you sold your Huanghuali 8 Immortals table and stools? Wu Wei handed over a cigarette and said, Don't mention it, Master Yi, I almost got my third sister involved. What happened, Master Chiao Yi couldn't help asking. Then Wu Wei told the story in detail. When Master Chiao heard it, he asked, are you sure that the guy's minions have all gone in? As a burglar, there should be someone outside to keep watch. Wu Wei's heart skipped a beat, and he stood up and said, then I'll go to East Street right away to check. Master Chiao stood up and said, be steady, don't worry. If you really need to call someone, call back. Wu Wei hummed and rushed to the carport in 2 steps. A quarter of an hour later, when the 28-bar truck reached East Street, Wu Wei saw a tall and strong boy squatting in front of San Mi's stall, looking disgusting. Wu Wei threw the car down without even bothering to set it up. He rushed over with big strides and picked up the boy. It's a pity that he is so big, almost as tall as himself, but can only keep watch outside. The boy was caught off guard and was about to fight back. Then Wu Xiaochun stood up and called out crisply, second brother. The boy let go of his hand and let Wu Wei hold him and said, brother, my name is Xiang Hui, and I am a friend of Xiaochun. When Wu Wei heard the other party's name, he matched the young face in front of him with the impression of the third brother-in-law. It turned out to be this boy. In the impulse, he didn't recognize him. Wu Wei smiled and let go of his hand, and turned to ask Xiaochun, did anyone pick a fight with you today? Xiaochun nodded, there was a thin guy, and Xiang Hui beat him away. Wu Wei let out a long breath, patted Xiang Hui on the shoulder and said, thanks to you. These words came from the heart. But Xiang Hui's shoulders sank, and he carefully took out a cigarette and said, brother, take a bad cigarette from me. The cigarette was Dakianman. For Wu Wei now, it is indeed not a good cigarette. But Wu Wei still took it, letting Xiang Hui light the match for him. After lighting it, Wu Wei squatted down, and called Xiang Hui, who was like a young man, to squat down with him. Tell me, how long have you known my third sister? All in all, 9 days, brother. You can see my third sister's ability, Wu Wei said openly, isn't it unfair to marry you, the son of a village party secretary? Xiang Hui's face had already turned red, and he kept saying, no, no. Wu Xiaochun said unhappily, second brother, what are you talking about? You haven't even got married, why should I be in a hurry? Wu Wei didn't have a deep relationship with Xiang Hui. In fact, in the previous life, no matter how Qin Ziru did something weird, she didn't break up this pair of living Mandarin ducks. It's just that the natal family is weak, and the third sister suffered a lot of grievances when she married there. Wu Wei brought up this topic the first time he met Xiang Hui. It can be said that he had buried it for a long time. Moreover, he had the confidence to say this in this life. Even so, he just stopped there. Rejecting Xiang Hui's continued approach to the front door, Wu Wei looked at Xiaochun and said, then my third sister's safety will be in your hands. Xiang Hui puffed out his chest and almost beat Wu Wei. In other words, the food at the secretary's home is good. Wu Wei returned to the meat processing factory with a relaxed look on his face. He went straight to the second canteen, got a meal, and sat down in front of the fourth and fifth masters. He told her about meeting Xiaochun's boyfriend. When Master Chiao Si heard this, he urged, you kid, if you don't get married, you will not only be single, but also delay your sister's marriage. Wu Wei said bitterly, Master Si, I'm so busy now, how can I find a partner? What are you looking for? Master Chiao Si glared, isn't there a ready-made one? While saying this, he looked at Master Wu. Wu Wei laughed in surprise, Master Si, you really match couples randomly. Yuyan is so young, she just graduated this year and just turned 18, she is not yet of legal marriage age. The master and master said this, which was equivalent to making it clear. To Wu Wei's surprise, Master Chiao Wu did not object. On the contrary, he said in a sullen tone, Yuyan is not old, 2 years old, she will be 20 by the end of the year. Hearing this, Wu Wei sprayed out a mouthful of fat intestines. Master Chiao's eye was caught off guard and sprayed, is it necessary? There is feces in the large intestine? You spray it out. Fortunately, it was after lunch. None of the three of them mentioned this matter again. Wu Wei got busy and forgot about it. Until the young man at the gate came over and said, "Boss Wu, someone is looking for you at the door." Wu Wei was confused and hurried to the door. Qiao Yuyan was standing there in a long white polka dot dress and plastic sandals. She was holding a net bag in her hand, which contained a brand new aluminum lunch box. "Teacher Qiao, you are here, why don't you go in? Master and fourth master are here." Qiao Yuyan saw that he was covered in dirt and stuffed the net bag into his hand and said, "Send it to school after you finish eating." After that, she pushed the car and turned away. As for the lunch box, it was a box of peeled and diced apples. Back at the construction site, Wu Wei was thinking about finding a place to hide the net bag and lunch box. As a result, he was caught by Master Qiao Wei after just 2 places. "Isn't this my Yuyan's lunch box?" If it weren't for the 3 beautiful words written on the lid of the lunch box, Qiao Yuyan, Wu Wei was going to deny it. After all, this was too shameless. How could the master who liked to save face stand it? Fortunately, the next moment, Wu Wei's heart moved. He handed over the lunch box and the net bag directly and said, "Master, Yuyan asked me to give it to you." Even so, Qiao Wei still couldn't hold his face. Until Qiao Ziyi came out to persuade, "Okay, a girl can't be controlled by her mother when she grows up. You will be sad in the future." Wu Wei laughed in surprise. Is there such a way to persuade people? Why does it sound like rubbing salt into the master's wound? Sure enough, Qiao Wei turned around and left. Work. Who has time to eat that stuff? So the box of apples was left until after work, and Wu Wei took it to the gate of the county. Yang, groggy all day. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 73. Bailun Middle School. The students haven't started school yet, but the faculty and staff have already arrived. Make some necessary preparations for the start of school. As a newly enrolled normal school student, Qiao Yuyan had to take the initiative, so she came 3 days in advance. Wu Wei stood at the gate of the county middle school, opened the full aluminum lunch box, and poured it directly into his mouth. After all, it was somewhat impolite to return it intact. After finishing a lunch box of apples in a few seconds, Wu Wei raised his hand to give a cigarette to the gatekeeper. He was still questioned a few times until he showed the name on the lunch box. Qiao Yuyan, who doesn't know this? Among the new normal school students this year, she is the most beautiful one. But the gatekeeper looked at Wu Wei's dusty outfit and was puzzled. Such a person dared to come to see teacher Qiao. But doubts aside, people should be let in, and they should be let in. After entering the gate, Wu Wei directly got on the 28-inch bicycle and rode around the campus. It doesn't matter if you can't find the teacher's dormitory. If you ride a few more times, won't you be familiar with everything? Although you didn't go to middle school, at least you have been around the middle school. As a result, you rode to a pool with 2 rows of faucets. Wu Wei stopped the bike and washed Qiao Yuyan's new lunch box while washing his hands. You can't eat someone else's fruit and not even wash the lunch box. But while washing, I always feel someone calling my name in my ear. When I looked up, there really was someone. It turned out that I pedaled directly to the bottom of the teacher's dormitory. Brother Wu Wei, come up and sit down. Is this convenient? Wu Wei looked at himself and said, besides, I'm covered in dust. What's inconvenient? There's no one else here. As soon as the voice fell, a voice came out from the room and said, Xiaoyuan, what do you mean, Ma Jia, am I not a human being? Xiaoyuan ignored her and went downstairs to pick up Wu Wei. In her heart, no one is more important than her brother Wu Wei. Classmates are not okay, and girlfriends are even less okay. Wu Wei couldn't refuse the kindness, so he had to follow Xiaoyuan upstairs. Upstairs, Wu Wei saw Ma Jia, who had only heard her voice but not seen her before. She and Xiaoyuan shared a dormitory. She had just washed her hair and was drying it with her hair disheveled. And before Xiaoyuan introduced, Ma Jia spoke first, you are the one who has nothing, right? Wu Wei was confused when he heard this. How did he become a person with nothing? Xiaoyuan was also very anxious, and quickly interrupted, what nonsense are you talking about? This is brother Wu Wei, a serious boss. Ma Jia didn't believe this. Especially when she saw Wu Wei's dusty appearance. Xiaoyuan was not in a hurry, and asked directly, do you know how much our first year salary is? Ma Jia blurted out, I know, I heard it is 63 yuan per month. Xiaoyuan said proudly, but this is only a fraction of brother Wu Wei's. Wu Wei was stunned, although what he said was true. But a literary young woman specifically mentioned the money she hated the most in order to defend herself. It was really difficult for her. As a result, Ma Jia fell for it. When she heard this, her attitude immediately changed, earning so much money, how can you still say you have nothing? Boss Wu, please come in and sit down. Even so, Wu Wei did not enter the door. Just stood at the door and said, you're not going back today. Xiaoyuan nodded and said, I'll be staying at the school these days, and the students will be back on Sunday. I heard from Zishun that you will take charge of their class when school starts. Zishun will be in your hands then. Zishun has good grades and is self-motivated. She will have no problem getting into a key high school. Okay, nothing else, I'll leave first. I'll take you there, brother Wu Wei. He took her all the way to the gate. He stood there until Wu Wei got on his bike and left. The gatekeeper was dumbfounded. That kid is really a hidden talent. The next day, the 31st, was the day Bailun Middle School started school. Wu Xiaochun came back early at noon and prepared the luggage and bedding for her youngest sister. Not to mention the mats and bedding. In order to save food expenses, she brought her own rice to steam. As for the hot dishes in the cafeteria, they would only buy a portion after the pickles brought from home were finished in a week to improve their lives. Now the family conditions are much better, but Zishun still has to bring rice to steam. Just to ensure the nutrition of the youngest sister's study, Xiaochun washed the eggs she saved one by one and put them into the rice. This will not break and increase nutrition. At the same time, Wu Wei was also remembering this at the construction site. So around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he went back to the fence yard to send people to school. As a result, when he got home, he found that Xiang Hui was also there. It seemed that he had come back redundantly. But Zishun was undoubtedly the happiest. In the past, she carried her luggage and walked to school. Now she not only has a car to ride, but also has changed into new clothes and a new school bag. Sitting in the back seat of Wu Wei all the way, Zishun's singing never stopped, and various minor tunes emerged one after another. When we arrived at school, Xiaochun followed Zishun into the girls' dormitory and was busy. Wu Wei and Xiang Hui could only smoke facing each other downstairs. Until Xiaoyuan appeared with a folder in her arms, brother Wu Wei, are you sending Zishun to school? Wu Wei quickly put out his cigarette and said, yes, Xiaochun is busy upstairs. Xiaoyuan looked at her watch and said, it's a pity that I really don't have time today, otherwise I would have asked brother Wu Wei to come over and sit down. Wu Wei said indifferently, you do your own thing, teacher Xiao. When Xiao Yuyan left, Wu Wei retracted his gaze to see her off, only to find that Xiang Hui was looking at him with admiration. "Brother, you are really amazing. Stop flattering me." "It's not flattering," Xiang Hui said sincerely. "When Xiaochun told me at first, I didn't believe it. Now it seems that you are even more amazing than Xiaochun said." Wu Wei changed the subject and said, "What do your parents think of Xiaochun?" "What do you mean by how they think?" "They are pretty good. To be honest." "To be honest," Xiang Hui scratched his head and said, "they are all pretty good people, but I think your family's conditions are a bit poor. For many people these days, the poor conditions are a scar that cannot be opened. But for Wu Wei, it is an exception. That's easy. I'll tear down my house and rebuild it into a small building in the spring of next year." Xiang Hui was surprised and said, "Build a building?" Wu Wei said lightly, "One step at a time. The building will be built sooner or later." Xiang Hui was surprised and said excitedly, "Why don't you take me with you? I also want to get rich." This sounded pleasant, but Wu Wei didn't get carried away and said, "Your parents have already arranged your path for you. I won't interfere." "Brother, you mean the packaging factory," Xiang Hui said disapprovingly. "What future can a small broken packaging factory have? Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 74. No matter how shabby the packaging factory was, it was still a village-run enterprise, belonging to the category of township enterprises. The 1980s was precisely the era when township enterprises grew wildly. It was normal for Xiang Hui not to realize this. After all, one cannot see the true face of Mount Lu because one is in the mountain. Wu Wei didn't want to talk to him at all. When it got dark, the students left the dormitory and went straight to the classroom. Xiaochun followed Zishun out, exhorting and repeatedly instructing along the way. Zishun's ears were calloused from listening, but she couldn't stop. As soon as Zishun went to school, the days passed quickly. In a blink of an eye, September had passed. The construction period of the Song and Tang family's small Western-style buildings had just passed half, and the construction of the meat processing plant was only one-third of the way. But Wu Wei had saved nearly 500 yuan from other scattered projects. Under the training of old lady Zhao, Yang Qiao's account keeping was getting better and better. So Wu Wei gave her all the account books for the projects on hand, and he was only responsible for providing her with data every day. This was actually enough to free Yang Qiao from heavy physical labor, specializing in these light tasks. But Wu Wei mentioned it several times, and the silly girl was not happy. It didn't matter that she was not happy. Every time Wu Wei was held by her, he couldn't help but shudder. It was really because his hands were too calloused from doing small work. The next day was National Day, Wednesday. It was the big day for Zheng Laohan's family to marry a daughter-in-law. Wu Wei had said that he would go to repay the favor. Not only had he prepared the money for the gift, but Yang Qiao also made him a new dress. After putting it on, he immediately looked handsome. When he arrived at the family area of the meat processing plant, it was already past 10 in the morning. Zheng Laohan's house was already 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside, surrounded by people who came to congratulate and drink, and it was impossible to get through. It is said that there are tables upstairs and downstairs, and there are 8 tables in total, including the ones in the yard. For these few tables, you have to queue up to eat the buffet. Fortunately, for Wu Wei, eating the banquet is secondary. The key is to show the person and the gift. He squeezed into the house, met old man Zheng, and received the wedding cigarette. He went back to the place where gifts were received, signed up, and paid the gift money, and the mission of this trip was mostly completed. He turned around and met acquaintances. After a few words of greeting, they all said that they couldn't squeeze into a table even if the banquet started. So Wu Wei simply walked out. When he walked to the outside of the crowd, he happened to meet director Won Jun, who came to congratulate him. "Where are you going? Go sit down and drink." Wu Wei wanted to leave, but after being stopped by Won Jun, he had to follow him. When Won Jun came out, he naturally sat at the main table with the bride and groom. Wu Wei didn't have this treatment, but he also followed Won Jun and sat at the main table. Drinking and eating banquets are common. Wu Wei followed the principle of not talking when he could eat, and he was the main focus of the banquet. During the banquet, he heard them discussing the treasury bonds in private, and his heart was moved. These days, as a welfare unit, the cotters of the meat processing plant are inevitably assigned to buy treasury bonds. But this thing, when you get it, you can't eat or drink it, and it also delays the family's expenses. Everyone thinks it is useless. When you need money urgently, you can directly exchange it for money at half price, or even 40% off. This is definitely a great opportunity to pick up a bargain. Think about the treasury bonds that Yang Huaiding bought at a price of more than 90% off that year, and you can get it at 40% or 50% off. How big is the price difference here? It's double. Hearing this news, Wu Wei immediately felt that this banquet was not in vain. After eating and drinking, Wu Wei followed Won Jun and left, and the two rode back to the factory together. "Director Won, you see, the main part of the factory building project has been completed for more than 1/3 of the time. Shouldn't the factory send someone to inspect it? It's a small matter if the experiment is not inspected. The key is that after the inspection, according to the contract, the money that should be paid must be paid." Although Won Jun's face was red from drinking, he understood it as soon as he heard it. "I have seen the progress. In fact, I have approved it a long time ago. It's just that the finance department is going through the process. You can go to the finance department to check it out later." "That's great." Director Won. Wu Wei was so excited that he didn't care about the false excuses in Won Jun's words. Back to the meat processing plant, Wu Wei went straight to the finance department. After hearing his purpose, the middle-aged glasses lady in the finance department made a few phone calls. Then she began to count the money. Watching the big unity flying up and down in the money counting machine, Wu Wei felt relieved. He won't lose much with this first payment. But at least he will be less timid. Soon, the huge sum of 150,000 yuan was counted. Wu Wei had to find a fertilizer bag to carry the money because it was too much. When he walked out of the finance department with the money, those who knew about it were dumbfounded. When he returned to the construction site, Master Chiao Si and Master Chiao Wu were also scared. With so much money, they felt that there was more risk if they kept it for one more minute. Wu Wei said with a relaxed look, Master Si, don't think this money is a lot, it will be gone in a while. In addition to the material payment for Boss Chang, since the project started, we didn't pay the workers during the Mid-Autumn Festival to celebrate the festival, and now we have to make up for it anyway. Taking both into account, Boss Chang's material payment has not been settled yet. Even so, when Boss Chang came over, he still brought 2 packs of cigarettes with a smile. So Wu Wei spent the rest of the afternoon keeping accounts and distributing money. In the end, not a penny of the huge sum of 150,000 was left. Wu Wei himself only had 2 packs of Zonghua cigarettes brought by Boss Chang. Master Chiao Wu saw this and couldn't bear it. He took advantage of the time when no one was around and directly returned his wages to Wu Wei, saying, "You have a heavy burden in your family, so you have to take the money." As a result, Master Chiao Si, who had hurried back, saw him and asked, "Why, are you the only one who cares about your apprentice?" As he said this, Master Chiao Si also slapped his wages on the table. Wu Wei couldn't help laughing. "Master, fourth master, I appreciate your kindness. Don't worry, it's not that I don't have money to spend. I have been making money from those odd jobs in the city. Although it's not much, it's enough to spend." Fourth Master Chiao was puzzled, really? Wu Wei pushed back the wages of the fourth master first. Of course, do I have to lie to you, fourth master? Then he stuffed the wages of the fifth master back and said, besides, no matter whose money I'm short of, I can't short of your wages. As soon as he finished speaking, the fat section chief Song came over and said, after work, go home. This home naturally refers to the other party's home in the factory. After Wu Wei agreed, he turned around and smiled proudly at the fourth master and the fifth master. Fourth master, master, look, isn't my money coming again? The two brothers smiled at each other. This kid can always make the hard work of making money become easy and casual. This is the ability. Yang, not well yet, feeling dizzy, only 2 updates in 4K today, sorry. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 75. After work. Wu Wei came to Section Chief Song's temporary dormitory inside the meat processing plant with ease. Only Section Chief Song's wife Zhang Yan was at home. He was familiar with the place, not because he always came to see Section Chief's wife. But during this period of time, he had built a factory building in the meat processing plant and had basically figured out the internal situation. Even so, Wu Wei could see Zhang Yan's mature figure when she was busy through the gauze curtains and windows. He still knocked on the door politely. When the knock came, Zhang Yan immediately came to answer the door with a swaying hip, holding a spatula in her hand. Oh, it's you, Master Wu, just push the door and come in. After all, the small Western-style house at home was entrusted to you to build, so why should you be so polite? Wu Wei didn't dare to think so. They were neighbors, and Section Chief Song was not at home, so he didn't dare to be too casual. Not only that, after entering the door, he was leisurely and self-deprecatingly said, Sister Zhang, if you have anything to say, I'll stand here and you can tell me. I'm covered in dust, so I won't cause trouble for your family. Zhang Yan pointed and pulled a chair over for him to sit on, saying, sit here, if you get dirty, I'll wash it. Put the chair away, and then went to pour tea and get cigarettes. In the end, it was Wu Wei who reminded her, Sister Zhang, the dishes in your pot. Zhang Yan then hurriedly exclaimed and ran, oh, I forgot the fish in the pot again, just braised. Wu Wei couldn't help but secretly thought that in the eyes of the family members of the meat processing plant employees, fish is rarer than meat. At least when she burned a pot of braised pork last time, Sister Zhang didn't yell like this. As a result, while Zhang Yan was tossing the braised fish, Wu Wei heard the movement at the door. Looking back, he saw that Section Chief Song had also returned, followed by his daughter who had just returned from school, who was about 15 or 16 years old. Adolescence, with a rebellious look. Wu Wei stood up and said, Section Chief Song is back. I just arrived. Section Chief Song nodded, loosened his collar, and touched his belly habitually. It seems that he usually touches like this after taking off his shirt. Master Wu is here, sit down. While talking, the Section Chief's daughter came into the room and closed the door. Section Chief Song took out a cigarette from under the coffee table and said, Master Wu, smoke. After the two men sprayed smoke at each other, Zhang Yan also came over from the stove and said, the fish was originally braised, but it was accidentally burnt. Now it's stewed. Section Chief Song didn't care whether the fish was braised or stewed, and urged him, hurry up, let's talk about business. Zhang Yan walked into the room casually and said, I know, Master Wu is not in a hurry, why are you in a hurry? Fortunately, Zhang Yan didn't stay in the room for too long, and took out 5,000 yuan. She walked in front of Wu Wei and said, Master Wu, I went to see the small building too. It's really well built. The ground beams, the pillars, and the brick walls, anyway, we laymen can't describe it, but we feel good just by looking at it. Wu Wei also said confidently, "Of course, Sister Zhang, my design can at least withstand a magnitude 7 or 8 earthquake. Using earthquake levels to advertise is a great test and affirmation of the quality of the house." However, the couple didn't want to talk more about this topic. Zhang Yan said directly, "Now that the first floor of the small building has been completed, Lao Song and I see that the construction period is almost halfway through, so it's time to pay you the contract fee. This is half of the contract fee for the initial period, a total of 5,000, you can choose." Wu Wei didn't hesitate, took it and opened it directly. While ordering, Zhang Yan added casually, "In addition, Master Wu, I have another thing to discuss with you." Holding the money in his hand, Wu Wei naturally said, "Whatever it is, just tell me, Sister Zhang." Zhang Yan continued, "The floor of the small building in the future, the first floor will be terrazzo, and the second floor I still want to use wooden flooring, please ask the masters to take care of it." After saying that, without waiting for Wu Wei to respond, she added, "Of course, we will pay for the extra expenses." Sure enough, this money is not so easy to get. Wu Wei's hands kept moving, still counting the big unity. One is thinking, and the other is that he didn't have time to reply. As a result, Section Chief Song couldn't sit still. "Master Wu, the terrazzo hasn't been delivered to your home yet, right?" "No," Wu Wei had to reply. "Okay, it's up to you, Sister Zhang. The second floor has wooden floors, and the first floor has terrazzo. I'll ask Boss Cheng to return the extra terrazzo and replace it with wooden floors." Zhang Yan hurriedly thanked him, and then got up to work at the stove. Seeing this, Wu Wei exchanged a few more words with Section Chief Song, and then got up to say goodbye. As soon as he left Section Chief Song's house, he was blocked by Section Chief Tang. "Master Wu, do you have time to come to your home to chat?" Wu Wei looked at Section Chief Song's house behind him. Fortunately, Section Chief Song didn't see him out, otherwise if the two met in private, I don't know what kind of drama would be staged. Section Chief Tang, "I'm free." However, when he went to Section Chief Tang's house, he didn't see his wife and his children. But he also saw 500 big unity and took them. These two section chiefs are also interesting. When they saw that the factory had paid the down payment, their own small building immediately followed suit. They really maintained a high degree of consistency with the factory and Director Wan. When Wu Wei left Section Chief Tang's house and rode to the gate, he saw that Master and Fourth Master Chiao had not left yet. Wu Wei had no choice but to get off the car, stopped the car and said, "Fourth Master, Master, why haven't you two left yet?" Chiao Siyi pointed at Wu Wei and said, "Your master is worried about you and wants to see if you have received the money or just went to drink." Wu Wei patted his trouser pocket and said, "Master is really as good as a god. He has received the money and also been drunk." Chiao Wei asked, "What new requirements did the master put forward?" "Nothing, just that the second floor needs wooden flooring." Chiao Siyi immediately became interested. "Do you know how to lay this wooden floor?" "A little bit." Chiao Siyi is immune to these four words. Because he had seen Wu Wei's so-called "a little bit" last time, which is equivalent to "a little bit." "Then go and have fun by yourself." After saying that, he got on the car and left. Chiao Wei looked at the sky and said, "Can you still catch up with the wages at this time?" Wu Wei shook his head, "I'm afraid I can't catch up." "It's okay. It's the same tomorrow." So Wu Wei took 10,000 yuan and returned to the small courtyard on Bei'ai Road. On the 8 immortal table, Yang Chiao saw him take so much money out of his arms and put it on the table. She ran to the door like a frightened bird to see what was going on. After coming back, she kept telling him, "Don't go back tonight, just stay here, it's safe." Although there are some lessons learned from past experience, Chiao would not make her own decisions like this in the past. Wu Wei watched Yang Chiao lock the door, looking so serious. This silly girl has been learning from the old lady Zhao next door for so long, and it seems that there is no big change. But there is still some independent character in her character, taking root. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 76. Having lived two lives, Wu Wei does not reject the growth of this kind of temperament. After all, when this kind of temperament grows, Yang Qiao may grow into a new age woman with an independent personality. She will not always say that she is not worthy of him. Of course, everything has two sides. She may also go to the other extreme because of this, that is, one day she will grow up and leave him. Even so, Wu Wei will not stop her from learning and changing with old lady Zhao. Otherwise, what is the difference between him and that old guy Xiao Dekai in essence? Maybe it's because he saw so much money. After Yang Qiao put all the food on the table, she remembered to ask, "Do you want to drink 2 cups today?" Wu Wei smiled and said, "Are you not afraid that I will get drunk and attract thieves?" Yang Qiao said with a reassuring tone, "I know you won't drink and cause trouble." Wu Wei still waved his hand, "Then I won't drink." Then he picked up the chopsticks and put them together on the table and said, "Eat, eat." After eating, Yang Qiao finished washing. After changing her coat, she went to the next door as usual. If it only takes 21 days to develop a good habit, then Qiao's good study habit must have been developed. While Qiao was not at home, Wu Wei went to take a shower, and then picked up today's newspaper to read. This is Qiao's new consumption habit recently. 5 cents a day, buy a newspaper and put it aside, even if she just glanced at it. Later, she can use it to burn pots and light the stove, or at least save it there to sell waste. Most of the news in the newspaper is nothing new to Wu Wei. The only thing worth paying attention to is that the stock can now be traded publicly, and it is said that a Jing'an branch has been opened. A small storefront. Wu Wei knows that this small storefront has given birth to many legends. But the stall that opened at the end of September has no legends except for attracting a group of old leaks who are eager to look for a wave of profits at the beginning of the opening. And what greeted these old leaks was nothing but disappointment. After flipping through the newspaper, just over an hour had passed. Wu Wei was a little bored for the rest of the time. Fortunately, Yang Qiao came back on time and jumped after 2 hours. "I've been waiting for you. Check the accounts quickly so that I can pay you tomorrow." When it comes to applying what she learned, Yang Qiao is definitely more impatient than Wu Wei. After checking, the wages of nearly 20 people, the big and small workers, and the material costs of Boss Chang in the 2 companies were all clearly listed. Yang Qiao also followed up with the realization, "It seems that if you take this money back, not a penny will go into your pocket." Wu Wei smiled and said, "Isn't there your wages? If it goes into your pocket, isn't it equivalent to going into my pocket?" Although he said this easily, Yang Qiao still felt a little wronged for Wu Wei's hard work during this period. This silly girl, a little emotional, all focused on herself. Seeing this, Wu Wei had no choice but to joke, "Go take a shower, I want to grind the mill." Yang Qiao fled in panic, saying as she ran, "What mill are you grinding? I have to look after the house." Even so, Yang Qiao still couldn't escape the fate of being pushed. But after being pushed all over, she could still try to support her spirit and listen to the noise outside. Let Wu Wei fall into a deep sleep, snoring slightly. Fortunately, this night was safe and soundless. The previous burglary did not happen again. Woke up in the morning, the sky was bright. Living in the county town has this advantage, at least you don't have to get up early like in the village. Because the land is so small, it doesn't take long to get there with a 28-inch pole. There is no need to get up early at all. After breakfast, the two went straight to the family area of the meat processing plant. When they arrived, Zike and Master Gao's men had all arrived and were preparing to start work. When he saw Wu Wei coming, he couldn't help but come over. A look of anticipation for something good to happen. After all, Zike had heard about the factory paying wages when he went back last night. Everyone naturally became extremely excited about when they would be paid. Seeing this, Wu Wei did not keep the secret. He said directly, "It seems that everyone knows." "That's right, the wages will be paid today. Line up and come one by one. The wages are the same as those in the factory, and they are also paid on the Mid-Autumn Festival." After a while, the wages were all paid. Wu Wei did not even take out the remaining money. He pulled Zike over and told him privately, "The owner still hopes to lay wooden floors on the second floor in the future. You should be mentally prepared." Zike just got the money and said indifferently, "As long as the labor time is paid enough, it doesn't matter if I work like a cow or a horse." This pursued. Wu Wei did not say anything more, turned around and called the canteen to ask Boss Cheng to come and get the money. Boss Cheng had no choice but to bring another box of Moutai over. A full box of Moutai these days is 12 bottles. He had no choice. If he had paid all at once yesterday, he could have made do with 2 bottles of Huazi. But now it was divided into 2 trips, and he had to make 2 trips. It was hard for Boss Cheng not to think too much. Wu Wei was also shocked by Boss Cheng's generosity when he saw the 12 bottles of Moutai in the box. This box of Moutai alone, in 20 or 30 years, the price would not be covered by the material fee that Boss Cheng received today. Shocked, Wu Wei directly pushed all the remaining money over. "It's all here, you count it first, I didn't keep a penny." Boss Cheng was about to count it, and heard it, "Why don't you keep some for easy spending?" Wu Wei waved his hand, "I'd better drink your Moutai and have a sweet dream, there's everything in the dream." After sending Boss Cheng away, Wu Wei felt relieved again. Just as he was about to go to the factory, Aunt Wang, who hadn't received her wages for long, came to him. "What's the matter, Aunt Wang, is there a problem with the wages?" Aunt Wang shook her head quickly and waved her hand, "There is no problem with the wages, every penny is clear. The main thing is that I want to ask Boss Wu if there is still a shortage of people here. Someone in my village blocks my door every day to ask." Wu Wei spread his hands in embarrassment and said, "No shortage for the time being, Aunt Wang, you can see it too." Then he watched the other party leave in disappointment, and did not forget to remind her, "Aunt Wang, if you don't want to be blocked at the door again, don't say that you got your wages today when you go back." "But how can this be hidden in a poor rural area? Who put meat on the shelf today, who fried fish today, can find out clearly before dinner is over. Not to mention such a big thing as the wages." So when Aunt Wang came home with half a pound of meat, Xiao Lan, who learned the news, became indignant. Pointed at her husband Yang Gang and scolded him. "Look, Xiao Xiao is your sister, that should be your wages. No, maybe you can get more if you go. Now it's all earned by outsiders. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 77. On the night when she received her wages, Yang Xiao came back late. Wu Wei almost had to push the bike out to look for her when he saw her far away at the entrance of the alley. She was walking towards him with a newspaper in her arms and a lot of things in her hands. Wu Wei had already pushed the bike out, so he simply kicked over and brought her back. The other neighbors in the alley thought that the new couple was very loving. The car returned to the courtyard of Bai Road. Wu Wei propped himself up with his feet and let Yang Xiao get out of the driveway first. "You just got paid, and you bought so many things. Can't you live like this?" Yang Xiao said optimistically, "It's not like I won't get paid in the future. Besides, I haven't spent all of it yet." The next payout will have to wait until the two section chief small buildings are completed. It will be at least a month and a half later. However, this silly girl is generous with her own wages, but not with the living expenses Wu Wei gave her. At least she has never touched the money on the deposit slip. Try on this pair of shoes. Yang Qiao began to count the things she bought, and the results were either firewood, rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, and tea, or bought for Wu Wei. Wu Wei couldn't help but feel distressed and said, "You bought so many things, but you didn't buy yourself a piece of clothing." Yang Qiao said confidently, "Don't I eat these firewood, rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, and tea?" Then she persuaded him to try the shoes. What could Wu Wei do? He could only sit down and try on this pair of genuine leather shoes worth 1 or 2 bottles of mutai. Yang Qiao looked satisfied and even said with longing, "It looks good. You will be a big boss in the future, and you will wear a lot of leather shoes. But no matter how big you are, no matter how many pairs of leather shoes you wear, the first pair is bought by me for you." For this inexplicable desire to win or lose. Wu Wei was also annoyed and said, "I gave it to you for the first time, why do you still want to fight for this first pair of leather shoes? Then there will be many first things in the future, the first car, the first small villa, can you fight for them?" Yang Qiao was not fooled at all and said, "Anyway, I don't care, I fight for one is one." After making sure that the leather shoes fit her feet, Yang Qiao turned around and put down the things and said, "You must be hungry, I will cook for you." At this time, a weak, pitiful and helpless dog barking in the corner attracted her attention. "Hey, where did the little gray dog come from?" Wu Wei said without raising his head, "I brought it back from the meat processing plant. There are many stray dogs in the meat processing plant. I also observed the newly born puppies for a while and confirmed that there was no problem before I brought them back." Yang Qiao picked up the little gray and immediately overflowed with maternal love. "Put the chubby little gray on her chest." Wu Wei took a look and was surprised. This little gray who had just turned 1 month old was actually a lustful dog. He licked it directly. He immediately stood up wearing leather shoes, took Xiao Hui down and said, "You have to wash it well tonight." Yang Qiao said without knowing what was going on, "Okay, I'll give it a bath after I'm done." "I'm not talking about it, I'm talking about you here." Yang Qiao blushed when she heard this, "Then I won't hold it anymore, isn't that enough?" But who can resist the cuteness of baby animals? It's just the end of the month now, it's not the most fun time yet. When it's 2 or 3 months old, it's plump and tight all over, sometimes soft, sometimes tight, with a soft back and a slippery abdomen. Even men can't resist it, let alone women. Even so, Wu Wei still felt a little nauseous when he licked it that night. It's not that he didn't wash it clean, but he suddenly felt that he was the same as Xiao Hui. The next morning, Aunt Wang didn't come to work at the Song family's small Western-style building. With so many small workers, it doesn't matter if one person is missing occasionally. But Yang Qiao couldn't help but be surprised. Aunt Wang is so active on weekdays that she doesn't even want to take a half day off. How could she just not come? It was not until noon that Wu Wei, who was at the gate of the meat processing factory, received a call from his third sister from the village office and learned about this matter. He immediately rushed from the meat processing factory to the fence yard. He saw Aunt Wang sitting in the yard with an embarrassed look on her face, with a few old red bricks under her buttocks. Yang Qiao's brother Yang Gang was leaning on the brick pile next to him, which made Aunt Wang worried. As soon as Wu Wei appeared, he first liberated Aunt Wang and said, "You did the right thing. You can leave now. When you get there, ask Master Zai to record you as a full-time worker and say that it was me who said so." Aunt Wang was grateful and secretly glad that she did the right thing today, and then hurried away. Perhaps seeing Wu Wei coming back, Yang Gang felt that he had a handle, so he let Aunt Wang leave. But once Aunt Wang left, Yang Gang found himself alone facing the tall and strong Wu Wei, and he couldn't help but feel scared. What if he got into a fight with him? What's more, there was a tall and strong young man next to him. This young man was none other than Xiang Hui, who had sent his third sister Xiaochun back. Seeing that Wu Wei was free, Xiang Hui immediately spread a Yupinmei and said, "Brother, if you say something on the phone, I will help you chase the man away. Why bother you to come back?" Wu Wei took the Yupinmei and asked instead, "Oh, have you changed the cigarettes?" Xiang Hui smiled shyly, "I secretly took it from my father." Wu Wei then continued his previous words, "It's not enough to just chase this man away, the dogskin plaster must be torn off." Yang Gang heard this. After all, the two brothers didn't avoid him when they talked. It's just that at first he thought he was a big brother-in-law, but now he realized that he was nothing more than a dogskin plaster. The gap is a bit big. The next moment, Wu Wei asked him, "Mr. Yang, you went to work with Aunt Wang early in the morning. What do you want to do?" Regarding this question, Yang Gang could still say confidently, "I just want to see Chiao Chiao." Wu Wei grinned and couldn't help but be happy. "Chiao Chiao is living a good life, have you remembered to visit her? When Xiao Wei just died and she was being forced by her husband's family to make up for the bride price, where were you? When she happily returned to her parents' home, her daughter-in-law Xiao Lan scolded her so hard that she couldn't even lift her head up and couldn't even get in. Where were you? Now you want to see her sister? Forget it, stop your fake mercy and stay somewhere cool." Yang Gang gritted his teeth and said with twitching muscles on his face, "No matter what, we are both brothers and sisters, blood is thicker than water." Before he finished speaking, Wu Wei interrupted him forcefully, "It doesn't exist anymore. The last time I came back from your home, Chiao Chiao said that she no longer has a relative like you in this world. You, don't even think about kidnapping Chiao Chiao out of family ties. If you have the guts, go back and confront Xiao Lan, and ask her to go back and ask her parents what dirty things are going on in their heads. It's really strange. Chiao Chiao sacrificed so much so that you, the matchmaker, are marrying and starting a family. Why are you acting like a wife, not even a wife? Roll. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 78. After Wu Wei finished speaking, he immediately called De Wang to chase people away. As a result, after shouting, De Wang was not at home. I had no choice but to drive the person away in person, and then I saw De Wang passing by the door like a happy man with a friendly look on his face. Well, even De Wang is no longer single. Wu Wei turned around and pushed up the 28th big bar. Xiang Hui, who had the foresight, was about to follow him. Xiaochun saw a familiar figure turning down the rural road. But she didn't welcome this figure very much. She turned around and said to Wu Wei, "Second brother, eldest sister is here again." Without saying a word, Wu Wei quickened the pace of the cart and said, "Follow us," and locked the door. Xiaochun, however, remained unmoved and said, "She brought Xia Miao Miao here, and she even offered her a gift." Xia Miao Miao is none other than the eldest sister's biological daughter, who is now just 3 years old. Xiaochun felt sorry for the child's calf running around. Wu Wei knew very well that after this child became sensible, he would indeed look different from his eldest sister. Not only is she close to her uncle and 2 aunts, but her behavior is not like what her eldest sister's family taught her. Forget it, Wu Wei turned around and pushed the car back. He just waved to Xiang Hui and said, "You go first." After all, family scandals should not be made public. The eldest sister has a top family, so there is no need to let the future third brother-in-law know about it so early. Xiang Hui was straightforward and walked without any sloppiness. In the blink of an eye, Wu Shichun led Xia Miao Miao and walked around to the main entrance carrying a bag of gifts. De Wang, who had been having fun, returned to the gate of the fence yard and stood ready. It's just that it won't act rashly without orders from the master behind it. Wu Wei looked at the gifts in the net bag. Not only did they have cigarettes and alcohol, there was even malted milk inside. The sun really came out in the west. I actually saw the money back in the eldest sister's hand. Xiaochun didn't care about the gift, and already ran towards Xia Miao Miao, stretching out her hands and spreading her arms. Xia Miao Miao's little feet were already numb from walking, but upon seeing this, she still came straight over happily. Third aunt. Hey, Xiaochun picked up the child and began to rub his calves. Are you tired from walking along the way? After all, for someone like the eldest sister, it would be impossible for her to come here with a child on her back. What's more, she was carrying something in her hands. Even so, Xiaochun didn't even look at the gift, hugged Miao Miao, turned around and went into the west compartment, giving the child the snacks hidden in the box. Wu Shichun was naturally dissatisfied, so she picked up the net bag on hand and said, "Third sister, can you stop being so virtuous? I didn't come here empty-handed today, and I came here to do good things for my second brother." Xiaochun said without looking back, "Are you trying to match Widow Qin again? Sister, I can tell you. My second brother is now famous from all over the country, and there are countless people who come to talk to me about matchmaking. Please don't mention Widow Qin to me again." Wu Shichun knew that she was in the wrong, so she put down her net bag, sat down, and took a step back. "Don't worry, third sister, I'm not talking about the relatives coming this time. It's about the brick kiln owned by Widow Qin. She comes from a womanly family, so even if she wants to run it, she is powerless. Isn't it true that from all over the country, only the second brother has the strength and need to take over, revitalize the kiln, and start it again?" Wu Wei suddenly laughed. For the sake of a broken brick kiln, Widow Qin, the king of hell, didn't show up, but instead sent little ghosts to spy on her? First it was Pan Cheze, and now it is the eldest sister. Since she was playing like this, Wu Wei's heart moved and he simply changed from passive to active. "Okay, eldest sister, you go back and tell Qin Xiru that I accepted her gift. Later I will definitely introduce him to a boss in the city and pay for her brick kiln. In any case, let Qin Xiru pay some sunk costs first. All the gifts I brought were accepted, and I didn't get any of them." Wu Shichun couldn't avoid detours and spoke more directly. "Second brother, didn't you just get paid yesterday? You just use the money to buy the brick kiln factory, isn't that the end of it? Why bother looking for a boss in the city to get an advantage over an outsider?" Wu Wei suddenly realized. No wonder the little ghosts gathered together. It's a shame that the news about wages being paid got out yesterday. Wu Wei smiled and said, "Sister, to tell you the truth, the wages yesterday were paid to the masters, but I didn't lose a penny. Of course, even if I tell you about engineering matters, you don't understand." If not for the last sentence, Wu Shichun really couldn't help but use his brain to doubt it. But with these words stimulating her, she pretended not to understand. "Then when will you fall?" But Wu Wei avoided answering. "Selling the kiln has nothing to do with when I can get the money. Just tell Qin Xiru directly and say that I will contact her as soon as possible. Let's get down to business." Wu Wei reached out and picked up the plump Xia Miao Miao and lifted her up high. Then he let go and left, saying, "I'm leaving first. There's something else going on at the construction site." When Wu Wei left, Wu Shichun still wanted to divide the two of them, and asked Xiaochun, "Third sister, your second brother has been working on the project for so long and you haven't even taken a penny from home." Xiaochun knew everything in her heart, but she said with a calm expression on her face, "You can only get enough for living expenses at most, don't you know that?" Wu Shichun was still struggling and said, "Isn't it for your sake that I ask this unnecessary question?" Xiaochun sneered. When Wu Wei returned to the county town, he first went to the Song family's construction site, called Xiao Qiao out, and talked about Yang Gang alone. Xiao Qiao had already learned about the first half from Aunt Wang. After learning about the second half from Wu Wei, she was emotionally stable and her mind was unusually clear. You are right to scold. Even if he finds me, I will still have this attitude. Wu Wei patted Xiao Qiao on the shoulder. He was not here to listen to Qiao Qiao's statement. He was more concerned about whether Xiao Qiao would be affected by this. Even if she was unhappy. It is said that it is difficult to give up where people come from, including the blood relationship. Wu Wei was also worried about whether his existence could completely replace Qiao Qiao's attachment to where people came from. It depends on people. That night, Wu Wei was the one who came back late from work. He went around the small county town from north to south, and then he realized how difficult it would be to find a few shops that were not closed after work. Department stores and county supply and marketing cooperatives are all big. They closed on time without delay for a second. The People's Department store would occasionally close the lights later, but the lights were still on at that time, and it was not for receiving customers. Anyway, Wu Wei could not get in. Finally, in an inconspicuous small store, he found the treasure he needed most. As soon as he entered the small courtyard of Bei Road, Yang Qiao Qiao was already busy around the coal stove, and Xiao Hui was lying at her feet. Small body, big snoring. The sound made Wu Wei doubt whether it was a mistake to bring it back to watch the house. Come in, I'll show you something good. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 79. Yang Qiao Qiao didn't know what was going on and quickly put down the cattail leaf fan in his hand. He muttered, "What a good thing, so mysterious." But after entering the house, closing the door, and seeing the small object hanging on Wu Wei's hand, his eyes suddenly lit up. This is a good thing to lighten her burden. Fashionable girls in the city love to wear this stuff. But when the weather is hot in summer, I am embarrassed to wear it. But now that the Mid-Autumn Festival has passed and the weather is getting cold, no matter who wears the most comfortable clothes. This is Yang Qiao Qiao's initial understanding of this small object. It's healthy and correct, but it's just not open enough. However, when she was grinding at night, she discovered that wearing this thing actually increased her attack speed. The cognition was instantly raised to a higher level. Then it was Saturday. Wu Wei returned to the Bei Road courtyard after work. Yao Mei Zishan was already waiting here. He was lying on the 8 Immortals table concentrating on his homework. This girl spent the whole week busy studying, but she didn't take care of her personal image very much. Looks a little sloppy. But she didn't care much either. Wu Wei parked the car and was about to enter the house to say a few words. He saw Xiao Qiao coming out of the kitchen, serving dishes, and said, "You're back just in time, wash your hands and eat." These days, Xiao Qiao is obviously used to new things. Wearing it all day long makes you feel confident. No wonder women are always said to be nice. Wu Wei nodded, stepped aside, and let Xiao Qiao bring the dishes into the room and put them on the table. He then urged Zishan, "Wash your hands and eat quickly. If you don't have a towel, use mine." Xiao Qiao said, "I bought her a new one." Not long after, all the food was served. It was obvious that the two of them ate more than usual, almost twice as much. Not only that, Xiao Qiao said to Wu Wei while picking up vegetables for Zishan, "I just served a portion for Xiao-chun. She is at home alone, so she will not eat well. You can take it back later." Then he picked up another piece of fish and said, "Try more of this fish. People who eat fish are smart." This was what Mrs. Zhao next door said to Xiao Qiao. Now it was taken by Xiao Xiao and sold to Zishun now. Since starting school, Zishun seemed to have entered some kind of sealed state, and his whole body had lost a bit of vitality. He didn't say much after hearing the words, he just kept his head down and ate hard. Fortunately, after dinner, this girl knew to take the initiative to help wash the dishes. However, where Xiao Xiao would let her reach out, she did it first without any explanation. Wu Wei flipped through the newspaper for a while and waited until Xiao Xiao finished his work. Then he stood up and said, "After you finish studying with Mrs. Zhao tonight, go to bed early. I'll take Zishun back first." Yang Xiao Xiao wiped her hands and said, "Okay, please go slower on the road. Don't worry, I have Xiao Hui with me." While talking, Zishun was playing with Xiao Hui's belly, preventing him from eating well. Xiao Hui was so anxious that he howled. Otherwise speaking, when I was a student, there were always times when I was suspected of being a middle school student. On the way back, Wu Wei was unhappy because the late autumn night was already a bit cool. If you pedal too fast, the cyclist will not be too cold, but the person in the car will suffer. It is precisely because of the unpleasant pedaling that the brother and sister can talk and chat. I asked you to take the high school entrance examination and go to college. Are you feeling pressured? No. You're in the graduating class, are you used to it? Habit. This concise answer is like racing against time to answer questions in an exam. I am afraid that if I say one more word, I will fall behind. Back at the fence yard, Xiaochun was still under the windowsill, immersed in the sewing machine, and really didn't bother to have dinner. These days, she has not only made fake collars into many varieties and series of products, but they are suitable for both men and women, old and young. And began to undertake the business of adding shoulder pads to ready-made garments. Because most of the tops these days have no style and cannot be ironed. Therefore, the design of shoulder pads has become a fashion trend inexplicably. It's just that this kind of business of adding shoulder pads has to be made on the basis of ready-made clothes, which is more risky, so the charge will be higher, about 2 yuan per order. Even so, Xiaochun has no shortage of customers every day. As soon as I get home, I'm so busy. Today, after her second brother and Yaomei came back, Xiaochun got up and wanted to fill her stomach with a bowl of noodles. Until Zishun stuffed a lunchbox into her arms. Only then did Xiaochun realize with joy, Xiao Xiao is still thinking about me and thinking about me. Zishun was even more speechless about this, because she was expecting this person to be Sister Yuyan, not Sister Xiao Xiao. But it's a pity that Sister Yuyan's expertise is not in this area. Seeing Zishun entering the room, taking out his book and continuing to do his homework, Xiaochun reported to Wu Wei in a low voice, "Second brother, you asked Xiang Hui to inquire about the treasury bonds." He inquired clearly and said that he was willing to exchange money at a 50% discount. There are a lot of people. After confirming this, Wu Wei was ready to move. It is one thing to know the theory of leak detection, but it is another thing to know its feasibility. If it is done properly, it may be possible to realize cash in advance before the policy is opened in 1988. The next day is Sunday, October 5th. Early in the morning, when Wu Wei rolled out the 28 big bars and set off, Xiaochun sent him out. Then he warned, "Second brother, don't go all the way back to send Zishun to school in the afternoon. I'll just ask Xiang Hui to make a run. He's idle anyway. This makes me feel at ease when the earthly branches are envoys to others." When it comes to how the third sister handles her third brother-in-law, even though he has been a man for 2 generations, Wu Wei did not understand the secret. It can only be said that these two people belong together purely, and they are not enemies who will never get together. Even so, Wu Wei still nodded and added, "That's all thanks to Xiang Hui. But don't just let people run away. Give him a pack of good cigarettes at home." As a result, Xiaochun immediately objected, "He has a beautiful idea. You, second brother, are not willing to smoke those good cigarettes. So Wu Wei took a step back and said, you can't and are reluctant to let go of that Nayan, right? This is the final result of Wu Wei's guidance. Otherwise, this third sister might not even be willing to give the naughty smoke. After leaving the fence yard, Wu Wei went to the county. He did not go to any construction site, but went straight to the east of the city to find Boss Chang. It had been a few days since I received Qin Ziru's gift. It's time for this so-called boss in the city to show his face at the right time. Otherwise, Qin Ziru's patience will be exhausted and there is no guarantee that she will not come to her door. When Dagang arrived in the east of the city, Boss Cheng had just opened the store. Ever since he established this cooperative relationship with Wu Wei, Boss Cheng no longer cares much about the small business brought in by his appearance. Back then, when I was 30, I would celebrate the New Year with rabbits, and I would celebrate the New Year without them. But when he turned around and saw Wu Wei scolding him on a bicycle, Boss Cheng's attitude immediately changed. Boss Wu, what kind of wind brought you here so early in the morning? Wu Wei got out of the car and said, I have something I need to ask Boss Cheng to help me with. Whatever happens, just say it, Boss Wu's business is my business. Boss Cheng slapped his chest loudly. For him, although Wu Wei had many things to do, he was also happy to give money. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 80. So next, Wu Wei briefly explained the matter that required Boss Cheng's intervention. When Boss Cheng heard this, he thought it was such a trivial matter. All you need to do is reveal your identity, show off your posture, and talk nonsense. In the end, he might even be able to win and dine. What's more, Boss Wu has to accept a small favor from himself. Why not? After discussing it, Boss Cheng put back the door panel he had just taken off. Then the two rode straight to Zishan Brick Kiln factory together. More than 40 minutes later, the two arrived in a leisurely manner, maintaining a calm attitude. That's true, after getting off the car. Wu Wei couldn't help but be stunned when he looked at the kiln entrance with tall grass growing in front of him. In the past 2 months, Qin Ziru had allowed the brick kiln to stand without caring about anything, even turning a deaf ear to the grass growing on it. But having said that, Wu Wei suddenly felt relieved again. No matter whether it was 1,500 yuan that Qin Ziru offered or 800 yuan that she offered. They were not directed at the broken kiln in front of them, but at the procedures and qualifications of the entire kiln, as well as the old-fashioned brick-making machine driven by a diesel engine that had been used by countless hands. Qin Ziru came out after hearing the sound and had already put on some decent clothes. The figure wrapped in autumn clothes becomes more mature and exquisite. It's the same as Kiao's unevenness that he achieved through his talent, but it's different at the same time. Boss Cheng's eyes widened when he saw it. Until Qin Ziru bypassed him, went straight to Wu Wei, stretched out her hand and said, unexpectedly, I haven't seen you for 2 months, and I have to call you Boss Wu. Wu Wei held the other man's hand and said calmly, today I am still Master Wu. After all, I just introduced Boss Cheng. If you want to sell the kiln, he is the real owner. Qin Ziru was non-committal. But when he turned to Boss Cheng, he acted extremely exaggerated and polite. I'm so sorry, Boss Cheng, look at my eyes, I really can't see the mountain. Even so, Boss Cheng was very happy and said with a look of benefit, Mrs. Zhou, I'm glad to meet you. Immediately, the two of them were led into the main hall by Qin Ziru, where they smoked cigarettes and made tea, showing great sincerity. The only thing that surprised Wu Wei was that when Qin Ziru finished all this and sat down, she also took out a cigarette from the cigarette case on the table and put it in her mouth. This woman actually learned to smoke. When Boss Cheng saw this, he immediately took out the lighter he had on hand, flicked the fire, and handed it over diligently. During this process, he was also afraid that Wu Wei would also take out a lighter and compare it with the one he had. But Wu Wei did not. He always watched with a cold eye, even during the process of pushing and pulling prices between the two parties. Anyway, what should I say? He has already taught the process, boss. The results speak for themselves. The cup of tea has not completely cooled down. This time the contact was completely cool. Qin Ziru issued the eviction order, and Wu Wei and Boss Cheng stood up one after another. Just to save face, the woman still walked to the door. It wasn't until Boss Cheng pushed the car and took 2 steps out that she grabbed Wu Wei from the back seat and said, "Boss Wu, the price you introduced is too low, right?" Wu Wei wondered, is 1,000 yuan still low? I have already added my introduction fee of 200 yuan into it. Qin Ziru's face turned green. Then he took a deep breath, and his chest rose and fell violently. Then he calmed down and asked, "Boss Wu, I didn't offend you, right? I'm sorry if your character was insulted by asking you to marry me." Wu Wei smiled but did not answer the question. Instead, he asked, "Mrs. Zhou, isn't 800 yuan your base price? I believe that even if it's not now, sooner or later it will become yes. If you don't believe me, let's wait and see." After saying that, Wu Wei got on the bike and caught up with Boss Cheng. Originally, a broken brick kiln factory, no matter how great its net worth, had no one to take over, it would not be able to sell it at a high price. What's more, he doesn't have much net worth. On the way back to the county seat, Boss Cheng still had more to say. After a moment, he came back to his senses and said, "Boss Wu, let me tell you the truth. Mrs. Zhou has 2 children. The expenses are not small and it is not easy. You just offered 800 yuan. Isn't it a bit low? Besides, are you short of a few $100s now? A good man doesn't fight with women, are we?" Wu Wei immediately said, "Then next time I will introduce another boss to offer a high price to Mrs. Zhou." "No," Boss Cheng suddenly became anxious, "I won't talk anymore. I'll leave everything to your arrangement, okay?" Back at the meat factory, Wu Wei just pretended that there was no such thing as a brick kiln factory. This matter needs to be worked out. However, during the meal, Mr. Chiao Wu sighed and said, "You said that our factory building project is completed, what else can be done next?" When Wu Wei heard this, Master's question naturally meant something. The old man seemed to be obsessed with the feeling of commanding a large project. "It's a pity that fourth Master Chiao said in a confused tone, when the factory is finished, the weather will be cold and the ground will be frozen. We carpenters can still make furniture in the house, but you bricklayers can't do anything." Chiao Wei said tit for tat, "You have so many carpenters, don't you have no work to do now? Why don't you wait for the cold weather? Why don't you ask them to beat up the furniture?" Even though fourth Master Chiao has an old-fashioned mentality, he can't handle such a slap in the face. After sighing, he casually asked the question to Wu Wei, "Is there anything you can do? Even if it means taking some hard work and earning some hard money." Wu Wei said without hesitation, "There must be a way. Don't all the ways depend on people's imagination?" Upon hearing this, fourth Master Chiao suddenly had hope. Even the instigator, Mr. Chiao Wu, was quite surprised. Could it be that this guy really has more than one way to make money? Fourth Master Chiao immediately asked, "If you have any ideas, please tell me." In fact, this also revealed the inner feelings of Mr. Chiao. However, Wu Wei said in a serious tone, "It's nothing to be happy about saying something that hasn't been settled yet. I'll report it to you too after I figure it out and make sure it's correct." Fourth Master Chiao was so anxious that he shook his chopsticks and said, "Oh, you are so anxious that fourth Master will kill you." That night, we returned to the fence yard. Wu Wei took out pen and paper non-stop and immersed himself in drawing. Only this time the drawings were no longer construction drawings, but furniture drawings. Of course, his set of furniture drawings were actually tailor-made for Section Chief Song's family. From Simmons beds, to modular cabinets, modular sofas, to large wardrobes and more. This is a huge project. Wu Wei believes that there is always something here that can impress Sister Zhang. When the time comes, I will outsource it to Fourth Master's carpentry team. Not only did he help Fourth Master arrange manpower, but he could also make another fortune from it. Best of both worlds. This painting lasted until the end of October. Wu Wei discovered that thanks to his previous life, he had been immersed in the restoration of antique furniture for a long time. Otherwise, with his little carpentry skills, he would not be able to draw them all.